once in a while, you'll find that people on the team just tend to kind of run to the head of the pack, so to speak. You'll find that, we've got the same training available for just about everyone, but once in a while, you'll find a specific partner will kind of jump ahead of the pack. The partner will kind of ratchet the success up a bit, if you will. And when that happens, unlike traditional business, unlike a lot of different programs out there, when that happens on this team, we tell everybody what's going on. There's no secrets. We actually share what it is that allows a person to kind of break from the pack, so to speak, because we recognize that, I believe I quoted the gentleman in my email. I read a book a couple years back. I'm ready to revisit it again. It was called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And he makes a statement in that book that's pretty profound. And he says the following. He says, success comes to those who do things a certain way. I tell people when someone breaks away from the pack, when someone gets success that's, a notch or two above what the team at large is doing, pay attention, take notice, start to investigate, start to peel the layers of the onion back, so to speak. And when that happens, folks, you can rest assured that I will, in fact, do that. And I will, in fact, share with you so we all can increase, so we all can be in a position to grow, so we all can be in a position to contribute more. So with that being said, this past week and a half, there's been one such individual that's been pretty much tearing it up. And he doesn't like it when I say good things about him. He actually likes it when I hit him in the kidneys a little bit. But you heard him earlier. He's a good friend of mine, R.J. Buchanan. You hear him on these calls. And I kind of want to set the stage, folks, because you'll hear in R.J.'s story, and I do want him to tell a little bit about the story, but I want him to kind of decrease the length of it by probably about 50-60%. So I want to give you a couple little bits and pieces to kind of set the stage. As RJ mentioned, we met about 15 years ago. RJ was a guy that was running hard and building a great business, and him and I were traveling together and earning just about everything there was to earn from Vallara. And, the life kind of happened to RJ. And he went through some challenges that, he certainly shared, and he kind of disengaged, if you will, in the business. But I'm here to tell you that it's the relationships that you build in the business that will serve you a lifetime, that they will last far longer than the business sometimes lasts. And, RJ was my friend. And quite frankly, I never lost touch of my friend. And I knew he was going through some junk. And this business had afforded me the opportunity to be there as a friend. And I can tell you this, that here's a guy that gets it. He understands the business. He understands how to be ultra successful at our business. Why do I tell you all this? I tell you all this to hopefully get you to kind of sit up in your chair a little bit, to hopefully get you to pay attention a little bit deeper, to hopefully get you to take some notes, because I'm here to tell you that the information that will be laid out for you in the next 20, 25 minutes, I'm a firm believer if we can't cover what we want to communicate in 20, 30 minutes, we probably ought not be doing it. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of have a little bit of a fireside chat with my good friend R.J. Buchanan. And RJ, I know I greeted you earlier, and I greeted you with a little bit of a joke earlier, but I mean that, my friend, from the bottom of my heart. I'm excited about where you're headed. I'm more excited about the people that you're going to be able to help tonight. And if you would, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your story, and then I'd like to have you pretty much just lay out what you've been doing over the last week and lay out some stats for our folks tonight, if you would.
Sure. You know, Brian, and you told a lot of my story right there, but it began in 2001. 1999, we had sold our business, our family business, and I was doing fairly well, traveling. My background is an automotive auctioneer, and I was traveling 3 and 4 days a week, and then I had a blood clot in 2001, caused me to reevaluate my life, and I realized that I was sick of motels, I was sick of airplanes, I was sick of 6-hour one-way trips to go to work. I was sick of getting paid what the job was worth instead of what RJ was worth. I started my business with this company back in January of 2001. I didn't do a whole lot with it in the beginning because I let outside influences, I'm going to say that again, outside influences, keep me from doing the business. I was worried about what other people would say, and I had some people tell me I was crazy. Those things don't work, and I bought into that story. But Brian, every time I get in a car, every time I get on an airplane, every time, I sleep in a motel room, I'd say, what if? And, I started doing just a little bit, made a little bit of money, just a little bit. I mean, just a very little bit. But that gave me permission to invest a little bit more time into it. So I got focused, Brian. I guess it was probably along somewhere around the latter part of 02, first part of 03, and I started putting in a solid, focused effort. And, in 2004, I was able to come off that road. I was able to replace my income. As you said, we traveled the world. You and I walked across the stage many, many times together. We won. I remember they come out with a $10,000 mega bonus. You were the first one to win it. I was the second one in the whole company, and there wasn't that but a handful of people that even won that $10,000 mega bonus over and top of everything. But, Brian, I went into that depression along about 2014, and I want to publicly thank you because you didn't give up on me. You did stay in contact. We didn't talk as much as we used to, but you did touch out and reach out to me several times throughout the week, maybe 1 or 2 times. We stayed in constant contact, texting multiple times. We would talk every once a week or every 2 times a week. So I want to thank you for being there for me. But, Brian, I had a defining moment in my life. I started selling cars. I started selling life insurance. That wasn't me. And I had a defining moment is when a friend of mine offered me a 6-figure income job, and I turned it down. And I really said, the Laura is where I'm supposed to be. See, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed, not passionate, but I'm obsessed with helping people change their lives. And Brian, I mean, what greater joy does anybody get is when we're able to give somebody something. And we've got a gift that we can give people, Brian. And so you're right. I made that decision, and I think that's the first step that we all got to do. Tony Robbins said, at a moment of decision, a destiny is formed. And so what's interesting is, the first thing that I did, Brian, and this is going to be a shock to everybody. I know they want the magic bullets, and I'm going to give them the magic bullets tonight, folks. I want you to listen to what I'm going to share with you tonight, because I don't know why you're here. There are some people that I can see. I see Sheena, and I see Keena. I see them on the call right now. They're 2 of my brand new folks. I'm so excited about both of these young ladies. They got a great spirit about them. They've got a willingness to serve, and they've got some solid reasons for doing this business. I see Chris Chrismont. He's another gentleman that just recently came into my business, who is really getting fired up, and he has bought into, and I have seen such a change in him with the magic bullet that I'm going to share here tonight with everybody. And, folks, it's interesting. It's very interesting, folks, is that here's the magic bullet. Brian, the first thing that I did was I changed my environment, literally. My physical environment and my mental environment. You see, Brian, through this depression, I had become a couch potato. I became a hermit. I lived on the couch. I watched the news. And, one of the good things that I did, Brian, is I did do a little bit of personal development, which leads me into the second environment that I just talked about. As I started studying our industry, and I seen that, there were people that were making $1 million a year. Not everybody does. I learned that there was over $200 million a day being paid out in commissions across the world in this profession. Some people were making an extra 50 to 100 a month. Some making 500 a month. Some making, 500 a month or 5,000 a month. There was a lot of people making six figures. It's interesting, Brian. I've seen a statistic that Eric Worre put out of all the women that make a six-figure income. 80% of them do it in network marketing. Isn't that interesting? And yes, there's people. Brian, there's over 150 interviews of people that are making $1 million a year, people from all walks of life. So the first thing that I did was I changed that environment, and I started asking myself what's possible. Then I started doing the personal development, Brian. What I love about it, technology makes things so easy today, is I get to associate with millionaires and billionaires via YouTube, via a book. Isn't that interesting? I'm able to raise my average. And, Brian, technology is so great. We've got a Fire TV because things had really gotten tight, so we needed to cut our cable bill out. So we, $39.95, got a Fire TV stick. And I learned how to get YouTube on that thing. And, folks, if you haven't listened to it, I'm going to encourage you. In fact, you can email Brian, or you can email me. My team has got it already. But there's a gentleman called Les Brown, one of the greatest motivational speakers. Speaks to all the big companies, been around for years. But he talks about two things. Number one, he says it's not over until you win, and that it's possible. So, Brian, every morning for the last 3 weeks, first thing I do in the morning, Sherry and I listens to It's Possible by Les Brown. And then I watch on YouTube. I watch Brendan Bouchard. He's one of the leading thought leaders, a high-performance coach to the stars, people like Oprah, of that caliber people. And so I listen to him. And then, of course, Brian, I love Jim Rohn, buddy. I've been listening to Jim Rohn for years. So I listen to him. And so I've got things set up. No longer do I watch the news, okay? I watch things that's going to change that environment and forever change that environment, which is that 6 inches between my ears. So, Brian, that's the magic bullet in my repertoire here. It's working harder on myself than I am my business, because you know what, Brian? You know this, and I know this. This business is so easy. Eric Worre, made over $15 million in his network marketing career. He retired. He started Network Marketing Pro in 2009. He has done such a valuable service to our profession. He has raised the level of professionalism. And so, all the skills are right there in the Go Pro book, Brian. I watch him, subscribe to his YouTube channel. I subscribe to his newsletter. He sends videos out all the time. So, the skills are there, Brian. So that's kind of the magic bullets, as far as, anything else that you would like for me to share, anything you'd like to ask me about.
So, RJ, just so I heard you correctly, you said you changed your environment in two ways. Physical, you got your butt off the couch. Now, did you set up an office somewhere or a place to work, whether it was at a dining room table, a laundry room, or an extra bedroom? What'd you do there, man?
Yeah, exactly. Me and my granddaughter, Dan, we share an extra bedroom. She's got her computer on the other side and all of her toys in here. And then I've got my desk, and, Brian, things got pretty tough. I had to sell my desk, okay? So what I've got is I've got a folding table. I've got a chair sitting on it. Sherry draped a sheet over top of it. I've got my computer sitting up on a cardboard box, my laptop. And so nothing fancy, Brian, but I did have to get off that couch because, we got to treat this thing like a job, because we value our job. We need to have that subconscious switch in our mind, so we got to place a high value on our business. So I've got my office set up, Brian, just like I did when I had the office at the auction.
Awesome. And you told me that you really started to immerse yourself in a daily discipline of listening to some good thought leaders, listening to some great information that would allow you to start to change the way you think. Folks, don't fall asleep on that point. I've said it 100,000 times if I've said it once. And this business is 80% mindset, 20% skill. I mean, we could teach you what to do probably in about a week. But if your mind's not right doing what you're doing, you're going to be in for a long road. So that is a key piece. Now, RJ, if you would, talk to me about what's kind of happened in the last week. And it's actually been less than a week, but, I'll just kind of round it up. Talk to me about, what you actually did and what happened.
Brian, this texting has been around a long time, and, we've been talking about it for a right good while. But, the thing that's so great about this business is that basically all we've got to do is text people, okay? And all I'm doing is I'm just following the 8-step inviting process that's set forth in that GoPro book. That's it. It's not eating up a whole lot of time. Brian is far, and I brought in 5 partners. Last week. I've still got a couple of people left that I've got to follow up with. Brian, we talked about, I think it was last week, a week before last, another thing that was really huge is where we're going to find the people from. People are everywhere. Being aware. I went to my daughter's wedding and reconnected with some friends. Guess what happened today, Brian? Sold an air purifier. Isn't that interesting? Was able to reconnect with my cousin, my second cousin, her and her husband and her brand new baby. They come over. We had Aaron and Bucky and Stephen and over here and Becky, and we just had a great time of fellowship. Just reconnecting. And but what I done, Brian, was I sat down and and here's what's interesting. If I look at the total hours, probably three. And all I did was I got in my cell phone. I wrote down everybody that I knew. I took them out of the cell phone. I put them on paper. And, it's interesting, Brian. I'm going to go right back to the personal development. I'm going to go right back to Les Brown. It was easy. Fear got into me. What are these people going to think? What if they don't respond? But see, Les Brown, because I had been listening to him every day, was whispering in my ear, it's not over until you win, RJ. RJ, you've got greatness inside of you. And so, I started doing that texting, Brian. And all I'm doing is following the steps outlined. I've got the scripts, and I just text them scripts right to the phone. And that's what's so great about it, Brian. There's nothing magical here. It's all right here for us. And here's what's happened, Brian. Let me get my sheet up here. So now 33 texts, okay? Of those 33 texts, I had 20 people respond, okay? I invited, of those 20 that responded, I invited 14 of them. Now, response, they may not have, I responded back to them. They didn't respond back. That's the reason differential is 6. So I invited, I sent out 14 of the videos. What I did, folks, and I learned this from studying the industry, is I put my story and Brian's video together, and I sent it in a link. So they hear my story, they hear Brian's story, and he presented the business for me. And what's interesting is that what I have seen, Brian, is out of those 14, is I did 8 follow-up calls. 8. So that means that the people that I sent the video to and set an appointment with, of the 14 that I sent the video to and set the appointment with, 8 of them actually showed up for the appointment. Now, Brian, what's interesting is we know that it's not going to be a fit for everybody, and that's okay. It's okay. I like to think about it. We learned this from Sarah Robbins. In fact, I talked with, one of my new partners, Keena, today. She's a waitress, but, that's how I met her. Going to a restaurant. But here's what's interesting, Brian, there's a reason that the restaurants have coffee cups. That waiter or that waitress walks around and offers people coffee. Not everybody wants coffee. That doesn't mean doesn't mean that the waiter or the waitress doesn't go to the next table. Doesn't mean that the restaurant said, we had 100 people here tonight and only 20 of them wanted coffee. Only 20. Doesn't mean they threw the coffee cups away. And of those 8 that I did the follow-up with, Brian, 5 of them got started. And I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited about these folks that got started with me, Brian. Because all I'm going to do is I'm going to teach them what I did. Get your head right. Listen to Les Brown every day for the next 90 days. He will whisper in your ear too. He will whisper in everybody's ear and if they'll take the time and listen to it. And, by the way, Brian, I forgot. One of the people that didn't want to get involved in the business, I asked her, I said, hey, that's certainly okay. It's not for everybody, but who do you know? She said, I'm getting ready to share the video for you, RJ. Isn't it interesting? So, Brian, that's kind of what I've seen. And, man, am I pumped up and am I excited?
And you should be. And I'll tell you, RJ, that's exactly how it should happen. I mean, at the end of the day, when you do an approach, folks, you're going to get 1 of 3 outcomes. I guess a 4th outcome is possible. But with the way we teach you, you're not going to engage that no, really. If a person ignores you and says no, they kind of sorted themselves out. So the 3 outcomes that you're really going to have happen when you engage and take somebody through the process, number 1, you are going to possibly gain a consultant. Number 2, you could gain a customer. And number 3, you could gain a connector. And that's what RJ talked about, this last lady who said, RJ, it's not for me, but you know what, I'm going to share your video because I think I can put you in contact with some people that you can help. So folks, don't fall asleep on that point. And RJ, are you doing anything above and beyond than what we're teaching out of that GoPro book and what we're teaching in that text strategy? I mean, are you doing anything special? You putting gold dust on your text or anything?
Brad, you hear me laughing. Everybody hears me laughing. And, me, over the years, I got a little bit too smart for my britches, so to speak, and I wanted to build a better mousetrap. But no, Brian, I had to get RJ out of the way. And now all I'm doing is following the 8-step inviting process, exactly the way Eric Worre teaches it. And, I will say one more thing, Brian, is that it goes back to where I studied the industry, what I talked about in my story. Here's the thing, folks. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your reasons, but I want to ask you a question. If there's over 150 worldwide, but let's just say if there was only 150 people that was making $1 million plus a year in this industry, if your goal is to make an extra $1,000 a month, do you think it's possible? If your goal is to make an extra $5,000 a month, maybe you want to fire your boss or fire a spouse's boss. I know Doug and Diana, they're getting ready, they're reaching retirement years, and, they're going to have a fairly decent retirement, but not the retirement that they want to do. You think if they wanted to make an extra $5,000 a month on top of there, if there's 150 people making $1 million, you think it's possible for them to be able to secure that retirement? Absolutely. So, Brian, when I do this, and he talks about the posture, okay, of this eight-step inviting thing, is I go in with the mindset that I've got a gift to share somebody. I've got a gift to share with somebody, and that gift is freedom. That's the gift. They might not take it. They might not want that coffee, Brian, but I believe so strong in our profession. I believe so strong in Bellara and how our products change people's lives. I believe so strong in Bellara and how we're able to change people's lives with our opportunity. My job is over, Brian. I've done my job when I've got that video in front of somebody. It's up to them from that point forward. It's up to them on whether they want to go to the next exposure or not. But that's what I'm doing, Brian.
No question. Absolutely. And how cool is it, RJ, that, literally, if you were to think about it, it probably takes the average person anywhere from 3 to 6 exposures before they're ready to say, hey, RJ, I want to do this and commit to the business. The great thing is most people, I don't even have to ask to join. By the time they get to that 3rd, 4th, 5th exposure, they're saying, Brian, how do I do this? I want to get started with this whole home protection pack. I want to get started with this full spectrum pack. They're asking me, which I find is really interesting. And to your point, when you're out there helping people and you're focused on growth and contribution, once you make that switch, folks, what you'll find is it's almost as if you're rewarded when you make that switch. It's almost as if you're rewarded when you get your mind right in making that shift to this is your primary, and maybe your career or your job or what have you that you're in, that temporary situation becomes secondary. I'll give you a quick little example, a story. Literally, guys, if you know me, I don't set out to retail a whole lot. I mean, that's not my aim. I'm here to train and help people and help them build teams. But what's interesting, literally in the last 3 days, I've moved a water unit, retail, and I've moved 3 fresh airs retail, just out doing life. And actually one of the retail fresh airs is joining the business with a builder pack tomorrow morning. I'm here to tell you that this works. I want you to understand that your attitude, your mindset will make you take action. If you're having a hard time getting out of the gate and taking those steps, take a look at your mental aspect of your game. Take a look at your attitude. The other thing about your attitude is it will actually inspire you to take better, more productive action. And it's that positive attitude that will give you the results of that action. Because here's the bottom line. Everybody's got access to those 8 steps of that invite. This business can really be boiled down into 3 simple things that we do. Maybe 4. Number 1, we improve ourselves through professional development. That's the key. That's what RJ's talking about. In my opinion, that's probably the one thing that's made the biggest difference. The second thing we do is we share a product. The third thing we do is we share this opportunity. And then lastly, we're promoters of events. And those events come in all shapes and sizes. Tonight's call, half-hour call, 35 minutes here, is an event that you need to get really good at promoting. The Bellara on the Fly interviews that are done every Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern, right before our team call. Amy Martin interviews top-level people. We've had Nick on as an interview. He was one of the first. You know, a little birdie told me that there's going to be a couple other teammates on next week. I'm here to tell you, you need to drive your people there as an additional exposure because it's the power of the third party. People want to see people doing it and having success, and what it does is it gives them permission to succeed. I want to encourage you to understand that our products are a great exposure. If I've got somebody I'm taking through the process, you better believe I want to get a product in their home. There's not a better business partner in our field than someone who's sold on the product first, folks. The belief goes through the roof. So understand that the exposures are a key. Understand that compressing the time in between those exposures is a key. RJ, you know, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for sharing your heart. Here's what I know. You helped a lot of people tonight. In closing, if you would, what would you say to that person? And I'm going to give you two types of people on the call tonight. Maybe that person that's brand new, and quite frankly, they're a little fearful. And then secondly, perhaps that person who, you know, has had a hard time taking action. They come to all the calls and they just haven't been able to get off the spot. What would you say to those folks?
You know, Brian, I think the message is basically the same for both of them. It's, you know, is get yourself and change that environment. Change that environment, especially the environment inside. I would highly encourage, and I would implore, and I would almost beg you, listen to Les Brown. Listen to Les Brown. It's not over until you win. Listen to it every day for the next 2 weeks. You know, I'm listening. I'm on my third week, Brian. I'm going to listen to it for the next 90 days. That's number one. Number two is really ask yourself is, why are you doing this business? You know, if you're brand new, what is it that you really want this business to do for you? Whatever it is you want, it's possible, folks. You know, if you're like me and you sit back on the sidelines and, you know, you were kind of a coffee clubber on this call like I have been for a long time, ask yourself, what's your defining moment? Why are you still here? What do you want out of this business? And then, Brian, become a student of the GoPro book. And that's what I would offer to everybody.
Great stuff, RJ. Thank you so much. I can tell you this, brother, you helped a lot of people tonight. And folks, we went about 5 minutes over, but I think it was well worth it. You guys have a fantastic night, and we'll certainly talk to you real soon. Take care, everybody.